My name is Marianne Holloway. I'm 39 years old. And the moment I realized my relationship was already broken didn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It came with laughter, the kind that sounds harmless until you realize it's aimed at you. It was a Saturday afternoon. My boyfriend had 3 of his friends over, beer bottles clinking, voices carrying too easily through the house. I was in my home office upstairs, door cracked open, finishing a report I'd promised myself I wouldn't work on during the weekend. I wasn't trying to listen, but our house has thin walls, and the living room sits directly below my office. Sound travels, especially laughter. One of his friends was complaining about his girlfriend refusing to attend another family gathering. Something about boundaries. Something about being tired of always giving in. Then I heard my boyfriend's voice, relaxed, amused, certain. "Oh, that would never happen with Marianne," he said. "I don't even worry anymore." More laughter. "She pushes back for a bit," he continued, "but she always bends, eventually." Another friend chimed in, "You've got her trained pretty well." My boyfriend didn't even hesitate. "It's not training," he said. "It's just who she is." I sat completely still at my desk, hands hovering over the keyboard, heartbeat loud enough that I could hear it in my ears. He said it like a fact, not cruel, not angry. Just settled, like describing the weather. I didn't go downstairs, didn't interrupt, didn't defend myself. I just sat there and thought about every single time I'd bent in the last year alone. The vacation I didn't want, but agreed to because he insisted. The expensive renovation I thought was unnecessary, but paid for anyway. The job opportunity I quietly turned down because it would have meant relocating, and he didn't want to move. Every time I'd pushed back, made my case, tried to explain. And every time, eventually, I'd given in, because I told myself that was love. I closed my laptop and went to the bedroom, lay flat on my back, stared at the ceiling for nearly 2 hours. Around 10 p.m., he came upstairs. "Hey," he said softly, "you disappeared. You okay?" "Just tired." He nodded, then smiled. "I was going to prep your morning stuff," he said. "Make your life easier tomorrow." There it was. Every night for 11 years, he'd prepared my mornings. Coffee set to auto start. Supplements laid out. Breakfast prepped just enough to feel thoughtful. It had felt sweet once. Now it sounded like maintenance. "Don't worry about it tonight," I said. "I've got it." "You sure? It only takes 5 minutes." "I'm sure." He shrugged and went to bed. I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I got up quietly and went downstairs. I unplugged the coffee maker, put the supplements back in the cabinet, poured the pre-measured breakfast back into its container. Then I wrote a note. Simple, clear. "I heard what you said about me today. You're right. I used to bend. Past tense. That's done now. Make your own breakfast. I'll make mine when I'm ready. We'll talk tonight." I went back to bed. Slept better than I had in weeks. The next morning, he was standing in the kitchen, holding the note when I walked in. "What is this?" he asked. "Exactly what it says." "You're mad because you overheard something?" "I'm not mad," I said. "I'm awake." His expression hardened. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said quietly. "I'm being clear." And for the first time in 11 years, I grabbed my keys and walked out without explaining myself further. I didn't cry in the car. That surprised me. For years, my emotions had been like weather, predictable, seasonal, easy to read if you knew which buttons to press. If he was disappointed, I felt guilty. If he was annoyed, I felt responsible. If he was silent, I felt obligated to fix it. But that morning, driving to work with my hands steady on the wheel, I felt something new. Not sadness, not rage. Something colder. Clarity. The kind that doesn't shake you, because it settles. My phone buzzed before I even reached the freeway. Him. "Are you seriously doing this?" Him. "You're punishing me over one joke." Him. "This is immature, Marianne." Him. "We need to talk like adults." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have words, because I refused to feed the pattern. For 11 years, whenever he pushed, I explained. Whenever he sulked, I softened. Whenever he insisted, I negotiated with my own needs until they shrank small enough to fit inside his comfort. If I answered now, it would be the same dance, and I couldn't do another step without hating myself. By the time I got to my office, there were 6 more messages, then 3 missed calls. At a red light, I stared at my screen and realized something sharp. He wasn't worried about my feelings. He was worried about the fact I'd walked away, because walking away was the one thing I never did. Work was impossible. I sat through meetings and heard none of them. I nodded at coworkers and smiled automatically, like my face was running a script my brain wasn't present for. Every few minutes, my phone would light up again. Him. "This isn't you." Him. "You're being cold." Him. "Do you want to throw away 11 years? Him. "Marianne, answer me." That one almost made me laugh, because it was exactly what he'd said about me the night before. "It's just who she is." He believed who I was meant someone who answers, someone who comes back, someone who bends. At lunchtime, I finally replied with one text. One, me. I'm at work. I'm not doing this over text. We'll talk tonight. Please stop contacting me during work hours. I stared at it for a full minute before sending it, like I was watching myself step off a ledge. After I hit send, I muted the conversation. The silence that followed was unsettling. Not because I missed him, because I realized how much my nervous system had been trained to expect his voice. Around 3 p.m., my phone rang again. Different number. I almost ignored it. But something in me said, face it. So I answered. Hello? A woman's voice, bright, careful, too friendly. Marianne, hi, it's Tessa. My stomach tightened. Tessa was one of his friend's girlfriends, the one who'd been at the living room gathering, the one whose laughter I'd heard first, like it was harmless. Now it sounded coordinated. What do you want? I asked. She chuckled awkwardly. Okay, wow, so it's like that. It's like what? I kept my voice even. Say what you called to say. There was a pause, then she shifted into the tone people use when they think they're being reasonable. He's really upset, she said. He didn't sleep. He feels like you're turning this into a huge thing. I stared at my office wall. The framed motivational quote I'd never cared about suddenly irritated me. Did he tell you what he said? I asked. He said it was a joke, Tessa replied quickly. You know how guys talk when they're with friends. He didn't mean... Don't, I cut in. Don't dress it up as how guys talk. He wasn't joking. He was bragging. He was just venting. No, I said. My voice came out calm, but my hands were clenched so tight my nails bit into my palm. He said he doesn't worry about what I want because I'll cave anyway. Tessa sighed, like I was being difficult on purpose. I think you're reading too much into it, she said. I let the silence stretch. Then I said, you were there. You heard his tone. Tell me the truth. Did it sound like a joke? She hesitated, just long enough. Look, she said quickly, relationships are complicated. People say dumb things sometimes. You can't... Yes, I can, I said. I can decide I'm done being talked about like I'm a certainty, like I'm predictable prey. Marianne. No, I interrupted again. If you called to convince me to bend back into shape, I'm not interested. That's not what I'm doing. It is, I said. And if he wants to talk to me, he can do it himself, not through you. Tessa's voice sharpened. So, you're going to throw away 11 years over this? That line, the same one he'd texted, like they'd all agreed on the script. I felt something inside me click into place, like a lock. I'm not throwing anything away, I said. I'm asking for basic respect. If that's too much, then maybe 11 years wasn't what I thought it was. I hung up. Then I blocked the number. And I didn't feel guilty. That's what scared me most. The rest of the afternoon dragged. Not because I was uncertain, but because I kept replaying my life like a film I'd never noticed I was acting in. Every time I'd said, it's fine, when it wasn't. Every time I'd changed plans to match his preferences. Every time I'd swallowed a no because it was easier than dealing with his disappointment. And then I thought about my mother. My mother had been kind, loving, quiet. She'd called it keeping the peace. But I'd watched her vanish in pieces. She stopped choosing restaurants, stopped picking vacations, stopped buying clothes she liked because my father would tease her for being fancy. She would smile and say, it doesn't matter, until it became true. When I was a teenager, I swore I'd never live like that. I swore I'd never disappear just to be loved. And yet, here I was, 39, realizing I had done it anyway. When I got home around 6:30, he was already there. In the kitchen, cooking dinner, but not the way he normally cooked when he wanted to impress me. Not the elaborate meals, not the candles, not the performative sweetness. This was pasta and jar sauce. Bare minimum. He looked up like he had been waiting at the edge of a cliff. Dinner's almost ready, he said. Thanks, I replied. He watched me like he was studying a stranger. We need to talk, he said, voice tight. We do. We sat down with our plates, ate in silence for a few minutes. Then he put his fork down hard enough that it clinked against the plate. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't react. He blinked, like my lack of immediate forgiveness threw him off. For what specifically? I asked. His jaw flexed. For what I said, he said, to my friends, for making it sound like I don't respect you. I held his gaze. Do you respect me? I asked. Of course I do. Then why did you say I always bend? I asked. Why did you tell them you don't worry because I'm predictable? His eyes flicked away for half a second. Then he said something that made my stomach go cold. Because it's true, he admitted. But I didn't mean it in a bad way. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was breathtakingly honest. He didn't deny it. He just didn't understand why it mattered. How did you mean it? I asked quietly. He exhaled, frustrated, like he was explaining something obvious. I meant you're reasonable, he said. You listen. We always work things out. We don't work things out, I said. I give in. That's not how I see it, he snapped. How do you see it? I asked. He leaned back in his chair, palms open, like he was trying to show me how fair he was. I see you as flexible, he said, willing to compromise. Name a compromise, I said. Name one time in the last year where you gave up something you wanted because I didn't want it. He opened his mouth, closed it. His eyes shifted, searching, like he was scanning a database that didn't contain the file. Finally, he said, the vacation. I didn't move. You didn't want the beach, he said. You wanted the mountains. We went to the beach, but I let you pick the resort. I stared at him. You let me pick the resort, at the location you chose, I said. That's not compromise, that's a consolation prize. His face flushed. The renovation, he tried. You didn't think we needed it. I agreed to cut these budget by 20%. You cut the budget after I agreed to do it at all, I said. I didn't want to do it at any price. You wore me down. His eyes narrowed. Is that what you think, he asked, that I wear you down? That's not what I think, I said, voice steady. That's what happens. He pushed his plate away, appetite gone. So what do you want from me? He demanded. I set my fork down carefully, like placing something sharp on a table. I want you to actually compromise, I said. Actually give up things you want sometimes because I don't want them. Actually treat my preferences like they're equal to yours instead of obstacles you just wait out. He scoffed. I do treat them equally. No, I said. You don't. And the fact you said you don't worry because I always bend proves you know it. His eyes glistened suddenly, not from guilt, chalk anger and fear mixed together. You're ruining our relationship over one stupid comment, he said, voice breaking. I'm trying to save it, I replied, by naming the pattern I've ignored for too long. He shook his head slowly, like he couldn't accept what he was seeing. What do you want me to do? He asked again, quieter now. I want you to sit with what you said, I told him. Really sit with it. He swallowed. And ask yourself if you'd be okay with me telling my friends the same thing about you, I continued. That I don't worry about what you want because you'll bend eventually. His mouth tightened. No, he admitted. Exactly, I said. So why is it okay the other way around? He didn't have an answer. The silence between us wasn't peaceful. It was the sound of something shifting. Something structural. I stood up and picked up my plate. I'm going to read, I said. Take your time thinking. He stared at me like he expected me to soften. To come back. To fix the discomfort I'd created. But I didn't. I left him sitting there, eyes wet, shoulders tense, surrounded by the remains of dinner like evidence. And for the first time, I understood something that made my chest ache. When you stop bending, people don't always feel remorse. Sometimes they just feel robbed. The silence didn't resolve anything. It calcified. For the next few days, we moved through the house like strangers who knew each other's schedules too well. We slept in the same bed, backs turned, a careful inch of space between us that felt louder than shouting ever had. I made my own breakfast. He made his. No commentary, no sarcasm, just the quiet choreography of two people pretending nothing fundamental had cracked. By Thursday evening, the tension had grown teeth. He followed me into the living room as I set my bag down. So, he said, how long is this going to last? I didn't look up. How long is what going to last? This, he gestured vaguely between us. You being distant. I'm not distant, I said. I'm resolved. He scoffed. Resolved to what? To not being taken for granted, I replied. To not being the person you assume will always adjust. You're acting like I abused you, he snapped. This is ridiculous. I turned to face him then. Okay, I said calmly. Let's test it. He frowned. Test what? I want to take a trip next month, I said. Alone. 4 days. Hiking. His eyebrows shot up. What? A solo trip, I repeated. Just me. That's extreme, he said immediately. Why would you need to go alone? Because I need time to think, I replied. Time that doesn't revolve around accommodating someone else. We could go together, he offered quickly. Make it a couples thing. I don't want to, I said. He stared at me like I'd just spoken another language. Marianne, he said slowly. Married people don't just take solo trips without discussing it. We're discussing it now, I said. I'm telling you what I want. Will you support it? He hesitated. Just for a moment. But it was enough. I need time to think about it, he said. I nodded. That's what I thought. What does that mean? He asked, defensive. It means if you'd asked me for a solo trip, I said, I would have said yes immediately. I would have asked where you wanted to go, helped you plan, made sure you had everything you needed. That's different, he argued. You're twisting this. How is it different? I asked. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. I don't know, he admitted. It just is. No, I said quietly. It feels different because you're not used to my wants being prioritized. When they are, it feels wrong to you. His jaw tightened. So now you're just going to do whatever you want without considering me? No, I said. I'm going to do what I want after considering both of us equally. That's what I've always done, he insisted. I shook my head. No, you've done what you want, knowing I'd eventually adjust. Now I'm doing what you've been doing, and suddenly it's a problem. He went silent. Then, softly, he said, I don't like this version of you. I felt that land. Not as an insult, as a confession. I know, I said. This version doesn't accommodate you automatically. This version has preferences that matter. That's not it, he said quickly. You're cold. You're distant. You're not like yourself. I looked at him for a long moment. I'm being exactly like myself, I said. You're just not used to it, because for years, I was playing a role. What role, he asked. The accommodating girlfriend, I said. The one who bends. The one you told your friends about. His face drained of color. That was a performance, I continued. This is reality. He had nothing to say to that. The house felt smaller that night. Not because of the walls. Because something foundational had shifted, and neither of us knew how to stand on it yet. I went to bed without saying goodnight. And for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to fix it. I woke up Friday morning to the smell of coffee. For half a second, my body reacted before my mind did. Muscle memory reaching for something familiar, comforting, automatic. Then I saw it. The coffee maker was on. My supplements were laid out neatly beside a glass of water. Breakfast was prepped exactly the way it used to be. The old ritual. He was standing by the counter, watching me carefully, like someone testing whether a switch still worked. I thought we could start fresh today, he said. I was just trying to be nice. I didn't raise my voice, didn't sigh, didn't explain. I walked past the counter, opened the fridge, and took out eggs. He frowned. What are you doing? Making breakfast, I said. You already have one, he replied, gesturing toward the setup. I cracked the eggs into a pan. I didn't ask for it. The silence snapped tight between us. You're really going to do this? He said. After everything, you're still punishing me? I turned off the stove and faced him. This isn't punishment, I said. This is refusal. Refusal of what? Of the pattern, I replied. You didn't make breakfast because you wanted to. You made it because you thought it would reset things. That's not fair. It is, I said, and you know it. His voice sharpened. I've been doing this for 11 years. I know, I said, and it was sweet for maybe 9 of them. He stiffened. The last 2, I continued, it stopped feeling like care. It started feeling like maintenance, like keeping something running the way you need it to. That's insane, he snapped. Is it? I asked. Or is it just uncomfortable to hear? He grabbed his keys from the counter. I can't do this right now, he said. I'm going to work. We're doing this whether you're ready or not, I replied. This is our relationship. He stopped at the door. So what? He said bitterly. You're going to hold this line forever until I give in? I met his eyes. Yes. That's not how partnerships work. No, I said. That's how control works. And I don't want that anymore. He stared at me, waiting. For softness. For retreat. For the familiar bend. It didn't come. Then maybe this can't be fixed, he said finally. Then say that, I replied. Say our relationship can't survive because I won't disappear anymore. He couldn't. He left without another word. I sat at the table, ate my eggs and toast slowly, deliberately, while the untouched breakfast he'd prepared cooled on the counter. Then I cleared it away, put everything back where it belonged, unplugged the coffee maker, wiped the counter clean. No trace. It felt final. The weekend passed in fragments. We avoided each other, traded the house in shifts. If I was in the living room, he'd disappear into the bedroom. If he was in the kitchen, I'd take a walk. On Sunday evening, he finally broke. I talked to my mother, he said. I didn't look up from my book. Okay. She thinks you're going through a phase, he continued, that this is some kind of crisis. I smiled, not kindly. That's convenient, I said. Blame my clarity on instability. She said all women do this eventually, he added. Get weird about independence. I closed the book. She also say I'll come around? I asked. He hesitated. She said I should wait it out. I laughed. Actually laughed. There it is, I said. That's the plan. Just wait until I bend. That's not what she meant. It's exactly what she meant, I replied. And the fact you told me proves how deeply this pattern runs. He looked shaken now. How many people see me that way? I asked quietly. How many people think I'm just predictable? You're twisting this, he said weakly. No, I said. I'm finally seeing it clearly. He sat down across from me. So what happens now? I didn't answer immediately. Now felt heavy. Earned. Now you decide, I said. Do you want a relationship where we're actually equals? Where you can't just wait me out? And if I can't, he asked. Then we probably don't make it, I said calmly. He stared at the floor. I just want things to go back to how they were, he said. I shook my head. That version of me is gone, I said. You don't miss me. You miss how easy I was. That was the moment his fear finally showed. And fear, I realized, was the only thing strong enough to replace entitlement. 6 weeks passed. The breakfast routine never came back. We moved through the kitchen together most mornings, but separately. 2 mugs, 2 cutting boards. Sometimes we talked about practical things, work deadlines, groceries, the weather. Sometimes we didn't talk at all. It wasn't hostile. It was careful, like we were both afraid of touching something that might still be hot. The solo trip happened. 4 days in the mountains, no cell service. Long hikes that burned my legs and quiet nights that forced my thoughts to get loud before they finally settled. I didn't miss him the way I thought I would. What I missed was the version of myself I used to be before everything became a negotiation inside my own head. When I came home, he asked how it was. "It was good," I said. He nodded. We left it there. Something shifted after that. Not dramatically, not all at once. But he started asking questions differently. Not collecting information, not preparing counters. Actually asking, "What do you want for dinner? Do you feel like seeing anyone this weekend? Is this okay with you, or are you just saying yes?" The first time he asked that last one, my chest tightened, because it told me he finally understood how often I'd lied to keep things smooth. I said no to 3 things that month. A dinner party he wanted to host, a furniture purchase he was excited about, a weekend visit to his parents. Each time he pushed a little. Then, this was new, he stopped. No sulking, no waiting me out. Actual acceptance. We had a conversation one night that felt different from the rest. Not defensive, not strategic. Honest. "I got lazy," he admitted. "You were flexible. You always adjusted. And I stopped thinking about what that cost you." I nodded. "I let you." That part mattered. "I said yes when I meant no," I continued. "So you learned that my boundaries were temporary." He looked at me carefully. "Are we okay?" I didn't answer right away. "I don't know yet," I said. "We're in a new phase. I need to see if this change lasts. If you can live with someone who doesn't bend automatically." "And if I can't?" he asked. "Then we probably don't make it," I said. He cried. I didn't. That scared him more than anything else. His friends stopped coming over, at least the ones who'd been there that Saturday. He said he didn't feel comfortable after everything that happened. Said he didn't like how they'd laughed when he talked about me. I didn't ask him to cut them off. That was his choice. I still think about that comment sometimes. She always bends eventually. It still stings. But it also woke me up. Made me realize I'd been a supporting character in my own relationship. Always accommodating, always smoothing things over, always shrinking so the connection could stay comfortable. People hear this story and think it's about breakfast. That I was petty, dramatic, making a big deal out of nothing. But it was never about breakfast. It was about being seen, about being recognized as someone whose preferences carry weight, someone whose no is real, someone who isn't predictable, manageable, or quietly trained to disappear. I don't know if we'll make it. Some days I think we will. Some days I think the damage runs too deep. He says he's changing, and maybe he is, but I'm watching for patterns now. Watching for the moment someone waits for me to soften instead of listening when I speak. That version of me, the one who always bent, is gone. I'm not mourning her. Yesterday morning, he made coffee for both of us. Not because it was a routine, because he wanted to. He asked if I wanted any first. Actually asked. I said yes. We drank it together at the table. Quiet. Present. Not fixing anything. Not performing anything. Just there. It's a small thing, but it's different. He's learning that partnership means asking, not assuming. That my yes matters because my no is finally an option. We have a long way to go. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. Patterns don't disappear just because they're named. But if this relationship survives, it will be because I stayed as myself, not as the manageable version I performed for so long. And if it doesn't, I know this. I'd rather be alone and respected than partnered and managed. That's not bitterness. That's clarity.